Hi, do you remember the last time we met? I spoke about Jessie J and Cha-Ching, but that's not the point. We spoke about my grandfather's beliefs in the two universal truths. Prices will rise and politicians will philander, which is closer to the point. But that's not it actually. Yes, I hope you remember now. We spoke about my proposed research paper titled The Price of Everything, a study of the evolutionary price stability of multiple consumption bundles as well as their relations to the business cycle of the Indian economy, which intended to embark on this journey to map out price fluctuations and inflationary-deflationary patterns in various categories of goods and services and explore the answers to the questions of do prices actually rise and fall, and how often do they rise and fall. And yes, this time I'm here with some answers. But before getting into the nitty-gritties of the research, I want to talk about the fundamental economic goal of institutions and governments across the world. No, it is not making more money. It is in fact preserving the value of money, of currencies, and ensuring price stability and financial stability. These goals have a history as long as that of economics itself, changing and evolving views with every monumental recession. To give a quick summary, central banks in Europe stabilized war finances. And after the 1907's bankers' panic in the USA, the Fed was set up to promote financial stability. Money had no sovereign backing in this period and was backed by gold or commodities, which is why inflation wasn't of concern. But thanks to Adolf Hitler, the post-World War effects of Germany and Austria drew the focus of central banks to price stability. The Great Depression, hey, it's the other one, yet again dragged attention back to financial stability. However, a major development was when in the 1960s, A.W. Phillips came up with the Phillips curve that ventured a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. This led to a widespread trust and belief in the monetary system in order to protect against financial losses and boost employment and output, leading to the early Keynesian belief that moderate inflation, chosen over the fanaticism of price stability, may allow the economy to grow better. But hey, as prices rise and fall, so did the fame and recognition as well as validity of the Phillips curve. Post-Nixon's price and wage controls, as well as the twin oil shocks in 1970s that led to high inflation, financial instability and high unemployment, Economy Comics released a new villain under the pseudonym of stagflation. And it was time for Milton Friedman and Edmund Phelps to shine as superheroes of the modern world, who came to the rescue and took the center stage in their concerns about high inflation, stating that workers and firms may start taking inflation into account while making business and employment decisions, proving that inflation may occur at any level of unemployment, thus shifting the Phillips curve upwards, thus giving way to stagflation. Apart from this, various schools of thought in economics interpreted stagflation differently. Although the classicals and neoclassicals still believed that nominal variables such as inflation, prices, etc. cannot really affect the economy, the contemporary Keynesians attributed it to changes in aggregate supply and demand, stating that an adverse shock to aggregate supply can give rise to stagflation. But you are probably asking how all of this is related to my research. Well, to put it simply, it's the story of how central banks started focusing on price stability yet again, as they realized that there is no trade-off between inflation and unemployment, and that prolonged inflation can actually harm the economy. In fact, the Reserve Bank of India was established in 1935 with the objective of securing monetary stability in India, and generally to operate the currency and credit system of the country to its advantage. The governor also said the twin concerns of monetary and financial stability constitute the core objectives of the Reserve Bank. Therefore, expansionary monetary policy that may actually lead to a rise in prices and inflation should not be put into use that freely. But so the question arose whether prices actually rise and fall due to changes in monetary policies and money supply, leading to the concepts of price rigidity and stickiness and the study of price stability in the economy. The benefits of price stability are summed up as shown on the screen. Keeping these pointers in mind, I moved ahead to study the price stabilities and stickiness of various goods and services in the Indian economy. The research question was, what are the natures of the price stabilities of various items and commodities in the Indian economy? What are the reasons attributable to these sector-wise stability of prices, including factors such as money supply, business cycles, etc. And the research objectives were as shown on the screen. Categories were controlled PDS goods such as rice, sugar, wheat, kerosene, etc. Basic commodities such as bread, potato, onion, tomato, milk, tea, clothing, footwear, stationery, etc. Consumer durables such as television, mobile phones, motor cars, cycles, bicycles, gold, etc. And finally, services such as barbers, beauticians, washermen, electricity, telephone, and cable connections, etc. My data variables and data sources remain the same as mentioned in my research proposal. Although I have made graphs for every single item on the list through the span of 2011 to 2014 with the base 2010 and 2014 to 2021 with the base of 2012, I am going to briefly sum up my findings and analysis in this video. Controlled or PDS goods are meant to be provided at affordable prices to underprivileged people and therefore indirectly help the goal of price stability. Some of the graphs were as shown on the screen. These goods prices are mainly affected by variations in government policies, demand and supply, and not as affected by money supply, exhibiting sticky prices. Basic commodities, certain goods such as potato, onion, tomato, banana, etc. showed seasonal variations and demand-supply variations in prices, while clothing, footwear, etc. exhibited sticky prices due to longer supply chains and the presence of menu costs and monopolistic competition. Although the prices increased relative to the GDP of the country, the goods dependent on net disposable income such as non-vegetarian food were affected by changes in money supply. Although consumer durables underwent inflation over the periods, they did not fluctuate with changes in money supply, except for gold that showed slight changes according to money supply, as it is often an indicator of inflation itself. The rest of the consumer durables exhibited sticky prices due to long supply chains, various stakeholders involved, menu costs and monopolistic competition. Like, hey, I can't count the number of mobile phone brands, television brands in the country's market on my fingers. In services, while electricity and various connection charges exhibited no changes according to money supply and gradual inflation over the years, services dependent on the net disposable income of the individual consumer such as taxi, auto rickshaw fares, barbers, beauticians, sweepers and washermen fares showed changes according to money supply. Education and web-based learnings did not show much changes with GDP, which was pretty astonishing. Nevertheless, the limitations of the research were mainly the unavailability of proper net disposable income data online, as well as the data related to the demand-supply factors of the commodities, as well as the supply chains to map out a holistic view of the price stabilities of various goods and services. Aggregate demand and supply data should also be incorporated in the study. On a conclusive note, the effect of money supply is only visible on certain goods and services, namely non-vegetarian food, various individual services such as barber, beautician, taxi, auto rickshaw fare, etc., and slightly on gold, as they are usually dependent on the disposable income and liquidity of the general population and the economy. The consumption and prices of goods such as clothing, footwear, stationery, and other such consumer durables exhibit sort of price stickiness, especially in response to monetary policies due to the presence of deeper supply chains involving multiple stakeholders or menu costs or monopolistic competition and product differentiation, especially in consumer durables. For electricity, cable and telephone charges, which are mostly under government control, the issues for price stickiness are much more structural, based on coal prices, transmission issues, etc. While food and other goods such as banana, potato, onion, tomato, arhar, tuar, etc. show seasonal variations in their prices and the effects of market demand and supply. The consumption of commodities such as clothing, footwear, etc. are innately dependent on the gross domestic product, inflationary and business cycles of the economy, proving that inflation is pro-cyclical. Therefore, valid inferences from this research paper are that price stickiness and non-stickiness is dependent on multiple factors and cannot be purely attributed to changes in money supply, GDP, etc. Factors of supply and demand, the involvement of stakeholders, and even various interventionary mechanisms such as the PDS system that is aimed at keeping prices reduced and stable for longer periods of time, play a role at determining prices. Nevertheless, the contemporary Keynesian beliefs of price stickiness for certain consumer durables and other goods are also effective explanations for non-neutrality of money in the short run, as is observed to undergo gradual inflationary patterns in the longer run. So after all, I'd say महंगाई का ज़माना comes and goes as prices rise and fall for some goods while change very gradually for others. while prices are sticky for some goods and not sticky for others, depending on multiple factors. All I know is that there is a price of everything, and right now I'd really love to pay for some mangoes.